Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. It's Ahmed again, A to Z Auto Masters. Today we got this 2013 BMW 328i with X-Drive, all-wheel drive. It got the 2.0 turbo N20 engine in it. I'll be doing a timing job in this car, and we'll show you how to change the chain, the guides, and also the oil pump chain and the guides. And as always, if you enjoy my videos, if you learn anything from my videos, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe. Okay guys, so first thing first, we're just gonna remove the engine cover. We're gonna remove all the plastics from here. This wiper cowl is tied down by few bolts in here, and you have the metal brace that goes across. That's tied with 4 bolts, E18. Before we start the job, we're just gonna drain the oil and we're gonna start taking it apart. Disconnect mass airflow meter here. Loosen up the hose clamp. And you can just lift up. Just like that. You're gonna take this sensor out and remove this. There's another hose clamp down here, and now we can get this out. Of course, we're gonna have to remove the fuel rail, the valve cover, and we're gonna of course have to take those ignition coil out. And now we can take these two off. It's size E6. And on this side, we're just gonna disconnect all the injectors. And then we can take the 2 grounds off, 8mm. And now we can crack these fuel lines and make sure we have a rag to absorb all this fuel. That's a high pressure fuel system, so be very careful. These fuel lines are size 14. And now that top line is size 17. And we can disconnect this fuel pressure sensor. And now we can get this fuel rail out of the way. It's size E8. And now we can disconnect this fuel line out of the high pressure fuel pump. It's also size 17. First, we'll take this bracket out of the way. It's an E6. And there's one more bolt in the back. Now we can get these auto sensor plugs out of here. And get the bracket out. Let's disconnect that high pressure fuel pump. And now we have 2 T30s that hold the pump down. We're just gonna pick them out. And we're just gonna alternate back and forth because it's spring loaded. At this point, we can just take the vacuum pump out. In the back here, this has to come off. You cannot remove the valve cover. It goes through the cover. So we have to remove this vacuum pump out first. And the pump is held by 3 T30 bolts in the back. And the last one is easier to get from this side. And now we can just pull this pump straight out. Wiggle it and get it out. 1, 2, 3. And with E6, we'll take these out. 1, 2. There's one tab here. And another tab back here. Let me get this out of the way. Just 1, 2. And now with an E10, we can take all the bolts out from the valve cover. We have this wiring harness clip here. Just take off the valve cover. Okay guys, so this timing chain and guide are brand new. I put in a couple days ago. I advise the customer that the oil pump chain and guide should be changed, and they refused. We did the job. Car started running perfectly fine, and all of a sudden they lost oil pressure. The guide for the oil pump is broken. So now we're doing the whole job again to change the oil pump chain and guide. I didn't record this job to begin with, so I figured I can record it again and show you how to do the timing chain on this car. And I'm gonna start by taking this spark plug out to set TDC, and that's a 12.14 millimeter. So now we'll use a long screwdriver like that. And we're gonna spin the motor to get TDC, top dead center. I'm gonna use a short 22 millimeter on the crankshaft here. And we're gonna spin the motor. Looks like TDC is right about here. And the way you will know that by looking, and you will see the barcode on the cam right there, and the numbers on the cams have to be facing up. That's how you know you're at top dead center. So now we can fit our tool to lock the cams, take everything apart, and lock the crankshaft in the back and the bottom. Now we got our tool here. This is good for this tool can be used in N20 and N26. You don't have to go with anything crazy expensive. You don't have to go with original. You can go on eBay or maybe Amazon or something and grab one of those tools for cheap. Now we're gonna fit the tool here. Secure it with the supplied bolts. Only hand tools and hand tight. There's no power tools here. And now we fit this part of the tool. Just slide it right there. Same thing on the other side. Just like that. Both are in, and now we line them up and put the two bolts that hold the tool together. You can line them up by turning the crank just a little bit back or forth to get these bolts to line up with the tool. Make sure this is sitting flat. It's good. Now we do the other side. So now we have the tool in place. The cams are locked. We're top dead center. Now we can go up and lock the flywheel. Okay guys, so right now we're under the car on the passenger side. Right behind the cap here and the motor mount should be a plastic pin inside in the hole. You're gonna pull this out. You can use a plier, you can pull it up by a pick, use a pick or something. And then you're gonna have to fit this tool through the hole and through the flywheel. Here we go. We have the tool pushed all the way through. That means it's top dead center mark. And we're also gonna need this type of tool to hold the flywheel so we can remove the center bolt for the harmonic balancer. It goes just like that. You slide the gear inside, facing up. Just like that. It locks in the flywheel. Just like so. Make sure we push it. It's pushed in all the way forward to lock in the flywheel, and then we tighten these two bolts. That's it. Now everything is locked at top dead center. And now we're ready to disassemble the chain and get these sprockets off. But first of all, we're gonna have to remove this tensioner. And as you can see, we have the wastegate in the way. So we're just gonna disconnect the wastegate and move it out of the way. Okay guys, so this wastegate is tied down by two bolts, T45s. And it's a little tight here. Just gonna have to work your way around these hoses. And we can just leave this aside for now. Okay guys, so we got the cams locked, the flywheel is locked, we have the pin through the flywheel, so everything is locked on the engine. And now we're gonna take the tensioner out here. That's size 27. We're gonna have some oil dripping out of here, so you can leave a rag. And now we can take these two solenoids out and the center bolt out. Again, we make sure cams are locked and the flywheel in the back is locked. And now we go back to the harmonic balancer, the size 22. And these are extremely tight. They're usually 100 Newton meter plus 270 degrees. So it's really, really tight. And make sure the flywheel is locked with the special tool, otherwise it's going to cause damage in here. And now size 16, we can pull this serpentine belt out of the way. So now we have both cams, the cam sprockets are loose, the harmonic balancer is loose. Now we're gonna open these caps. We have a couple caps in here, one here, down there. We're gonna loosen this timing chain guide and take these two bolts out so we can slide the whole chain with the guides out. That's an 8 millimeter. We have the second cap right here. We're gonna have to take the harmonic balancer for this. Now we can take this harmonic balancer apart, and that's E10. I guess we're gonna have to tighten this bolt a little bit so we can loosen these bolts first. Now the center bolt is tight again. We can loosen these bolts. These should have been loosened before center bolts released. Okay, now we have all of them loose. We can just and now we can loosen that center bolt again, and we can use two of these bolts back just to pull this center piece, just like that. Now we can take the two other caps and one more here. Now with the T40 we can just take these bolts that holds the guides down, and we get the two more in the bottom. And now we can disconnect these camshaft position sensors, loosen the bolt. We can just drop them down maybe a quarter of an inch so we can clear this sprocket. Okay guys, so we got these two sensors pushed out of the way. Now we'll pull these solenoids and the sprockets. And now the whole chain with the guide system and bottom gear will all come as one piece. Just like that. And as I mentioned before, this job was recently done. We advised the customer to change the lower chain with the guide for the oil pump, and he refused. So now this chain went, the guides went on it, and he's losing all the oil pressure, and that's why we're doing the job again. It's gonna cost twice as much now. I don't know if you guys can see down there. There's actually no guide on the right side, right there. Nothing left. It's all in the pan. Okay, so now we're gonna pull the axles out, disconnect the control arms, and we have to lower that subframe so we can get the oil pan out of the way, the front diff out of the way, and we can do the bottom chain. This is size 17 millimeter. And usually really tight, so you need a strong gun. And same thing on the other side. This control arm, size 18 on both sides. Same thing on this side. Basically everything we do on this side, we're gonna have to do on the other side. And that control arm also size 18. We're just gonna move that plastic fender cover, size 8 millimeter bolts. And you have your outside temperature sensor, it's right here, ambient temperature sensor. And now we can take this other control arm out. Now we can take the outer tie rod ends off, the stabilizer links, we're gonna take them out, and now these wheels are separated from the frame. We're taking these stabilizer links out, and I'm using this special vice grip that doesn't damage the links. It's a very thin vice grip made just for stabilizer links. Same thing with this stabilizer link. Just gonna take it out of the sway bar. And now we take the outer tie rod end off, size 21. Same thing at the other side. Here's the axle popped out. And now we're just gonna push these axles. Here we go. And the other side, same thing. Now we can just unplug this rack and pinion. Now we're gonna take this aluminum bracket in both sides, size 13, 2 bolts. And now we can just steering shaft and take this bolt out to disconnect the steering shaft from the rack and pinion. And that bolt for the steering shaft, size E10, inverted Torx. And now we're gonna lower the car and just slug the steering with the seat belt so it won't overspin and break the clock spring. Okay guys, so we have this cooling hose down there attached to the frame with these 2 clips. We're gonna have to disconnect that first before we can lower the frame. Okay guys, so now it's time to take these motor mounts off. So motor mount is right there, and there is a nut from the top just right in this spot. Size 16 we're gonna get from the top. Same thing, if we go to the driver's side, you can see the nut right there on top of the mount. This also will access from the top. That will disconnect, will take the engine off those mounts. Again, this is size 16 millimeter. So now we basically have the engine just sitting on the subframe. Nothing is holding it down, just sitting on the mounts. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna have to brace the engine here, keep the engine staying up high. Then we go down and disconnect the subframe, take all the bolts and take the subframe out of the way. Okay guys, so basically we have the 6 bolt holding the subframe. E14, there's one inside here, one right there. 2 same, then on the other side, right there, and we have 18 millimeter inside here, and 18 millimeter inside here, and basically the subframe will come down. Okay guys, so we got the engine braced. Now it's time to go up and take this subframe out of the way. Okay guys, so we got the jack stand set up underneath the subframe. We're just gonna remove the bolts, and we're just gonna raise up the car. Send it. Okay guys, so basically taking the front drive shaft off, and we're gonna take this front differential out of here. And now E14 to take the front diff out of this oil pan. And now, since we got this front diff out of the way, we're gonna disconnect this oil level sensor and take all the bolts for the oil pan. We're gonna drop this oil pan. And now with the E8, we're just gonna take all the bolts around the oil pan. And these 3 bolts are size E10. And for this one, we have the transmission lines in the way. I don't want to take the tranny lines out because of the O-rings in here. I don't want them to get damaged or have to be replaced. So just take it easy. And just by the way, if you want to put those transmissions in neutral, you can just tighten this screw and it will push up on this lever, and that's how this transmission goes in neutral. Just like, here we go. And now, as you can see here, the amount of plastic from those guides, it's everywhere. This is destroyed. That's why we're changing right now. The upper part of it is gone. You can see the upper part of this is gone. So it's a mess. I'm just gonna clean this up before I forget. Wow. Holy moly. I'm just gonna take this bolt and pull the screen out. As you can see, all this junk was stuck in there. Of course, that's a size 10. And now I can just take these T30s, hold the guide in place. There's one more. Now I have the guide and the chain out of the way. And we got one more for the tensioner up here. The whole thing is falling apart. And now we can take this bolt out to take the tensioner off, and we can lock this by a special tool. You can put a pin here. Okay guys, so the way we're gonna do this, if you spin this shaft here and you look through that hole, you will see a hole, like a little dimple that you can put the tool through to lock this shaft in place. So we can use basically anything that will fit here, something like that. And now we can lock this and take this out. It's a size T60. You can hold this in place. There we go. This oil pan gasket, the old one, can come down now. I'm gonna change it. Okay guys, so it's time for installation. We have that was the part number for the oil pump timing chain kit. Take the old one out, it comes with the whole thing. Here we go. Just like that. And we got the 3 bolts that hold the whole thing in place. We snug them down. Actual torque spec is about 8 Newton meter. Tighten this down. We're gonna have to make sure We have the tool back installed in here. This is all done here. Now we can lower the car and put the top chain. And now we have this whole assembly for the top. We're just gonna slide this down. Put these two bolts here for now. And now we can just pull up the chain, and as you can see, the gear is hanging on the chain, and line it up. And we're gonna have to insert this back here, just like so. And we're gonna put the bolt back. So basically we're gonna make sure all three pieces are lined up and the bolt goes right through them. Here we go. And we're gonna put these two top sprockets back. You're gonna fit this in. Just gonna snug these down a little bit. All the way, and then we're gonna back them off a little bit so we make sure we have room. We need this to be able to spin. And now basically we'll do the same thing with the other sprocket, exhaust side. Same thing here. We're gonna snug it, then back it off a little bit. So now we have everything is in place and everything still moving. So basically that's how it's gonna look. That's how it looks. We're gonna go up and take up a look on the bottom. Okay. Here we go. All the chains are in place. Everything looks good. Now we can torque everything down. Now we're gonna tighten these guides back. And now we're gonna put these caps back. Gonna put the two bottom ones first, and when we're done and we get this engine and as soon as we're done, when we get this engine support out of here, we're gonna put the last one. Okay, so now we have both chains are in. The whole system is everything in place. Now we're gonna put a special tool here to put tension on this guide. This special tool comes in with the kit. So basically you're gonna have this all the way out. You're gonna install the kit, the tool all the way in, and then you put the tension with this side. So now the tool is all the way in. Now we can apply some tension on the chain. Don't use tools, but make sure it's hand tight and snug by hand. We need tension on the chain. Make sure there's enough tension here. So again, we're down here now. We got everything lined up. The chains are in, the crankshaft bolt is in. And at this moment, we can pull this pin to release the tension on the oil pump chain. So now there is full tension here now. And we can tighten that center bolt. Since we have the lock already on the flywheel, we can tighten that center bolt for the crankshaft. Now that center bolt is actually the torque spec on it is 100 Newton meter plus 270 degrees. It's a lot of power. You have to put a lot of torque in here on that. They're extremely tight because it uses friction to lock all these together, all the gears. I'm gonna put the pan, put the subframe so I can put the engine back in place and start working on the timing chain on the top. We're gonna clean up the surface where the oil pan gasket will sit. Make sure it's all nice and clean. Okay guys, so it's time to put this oil pan gasket. But before I put this, I'm just gonna make sure I put a couple drops of yellow glue to hold it in place so it won't come down while you try to put the pan back. Okay, surface is clean for the pan also. Just like that. And we can start by putting these long bolts. And you're gonna look through the holes here and make sure the gasket is still lined up. We can put a couple of those short bolts and make sure the gasket is lined up here. And it's very important, guys, you put every single bolt by hand in before you start tightening anything. Make sure all lined up, nothing's in the way, the gasket is not in the way. After you put them all in by hand, then you can torque them down. Once they all torqued down, now we're gonna put the 3 ones that come from the transmission side. Okay, so we got the front diff back in place. We're gonna put the drive shaft back, and then we're gonna put the subframe back, and then we can put the engine on the subframe back down. Okay guys, so we got the subframe back in place, we got the motor mounts back in place, put the steering shaft back. Now it's time to set our time in here. Again, we have the engine at top dead center, the flywheel is locked, we put the center bolt for the crankshaft and we tighten it 100 Newton meter and 270 degrees. So everything in the bottom half of the engine is good. Now we have these still loose here. They won't spin because now the bottom is locked. Only the wheels here will spin. So it's time just to put the other part of the tool, line up the holes with the pins and lock everything in place. That's how it goes. I'm gonna put the bolts in first. Okay guys, so as you can see here, the pin is going through, straight through. Okay, once we have everything back in place, we have the tensioner tool. It's taking all the slack of the chain, so everything is nice and tight. At this moment now we can start tightening these 2 solenoids. Okay guys, so we're ready to torque down the sprockets here. Again, we have the engine at top dead center. We have the locking tool locking the flywheel. We have the tool up here locking the cams on the right spot. And then the way you know that these cams are on the right spot, the lobes behind here should be facing up. Here you see the lobe are facing up and you will see the part number here. It should be marked E and A. Like here, lobes are facing up. And as you can see, there's part numbers in the back here. It says A. The other side should say E. That's when you know the camera in the upright position. So basically we have everything in place. It's time to torque these down. And the torque spec on these are 55 Newton meter plus 55 degrees. So size 24. Locked. Now we can take this tensioner tool out, put the original tensioner back, and start taking the tools away and putting the valve cover back. Time to take all the tools away. We're gonna spin the engine twice, 2 revolutions, to make sure the cams come back in the straight up position, and fit the tool back and make sure everything timing is right before you assemble everything back. Now we connect that wastegate actuator back. Okay guys, we got a new valve cover gasket here. Okay guys, moment of truth here. Everything is back in place. Put oil, put coolant, and we're gonna start the car. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe.